Well, we're at the Rainbow Retreat Lodge, and this is May 2014. This is the 10th time Deb and I have been here, this beautiful place. We're outside, and Deb and I thought at the course we're doing called The Art of the Examination case presentation, we just talked to a couple of doctors that Deb and I have been blessed to work with, Doug and his father, David Sandquist. They practice in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we've been had the opportunity to work with them for the last couple years, and this is their second time back at the retreat here. And I thought we'd just kind of share a little bit about maybe just open it up about your practice, and maybe a little bit about kind of your journey, and then how you started to work with us, and maybe just kind of share what, kind of your philosophy, and maybe like a hope that you see for people that are looking at entering dentistry or in dentistry, or people that are in transition. Like, what's the possibilities you see still for people that are in dentistry? Because a lot of people are questioning that right now. And just kind of throw it out to you guys, just kind of your background, and because you two together, how many years?
Well, I've been in practice for 46 years.
46 years. And Doug, you've been?
I've been there 16 now.
So
he was
62 years together.
Right.
So anyway, it's been a very rewarding journey. And I would say that if I had to do dentistry and practice the way we did 30 years ago, I would probably be retired by now.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't think the dentistry back then was all production oriented, doing just silver fillings, trying to fix decayed teeth, and we didn't look too much about. People knew, a lot of people, their mentality was, I'm going to lose my teeth by the time I'm 60 anyway, so why do anything more? And there was a different mentality than we had, and then implants came in, and all of a sudden we were doing more things to preserve dentitions and less removable, and so it's an exciting time for dentistry whereby we can help patients now. I think the challenge of dentistry today is, I think the model is that a lot of managed care has come in, and that has changed the paradigm. I have chosen always. I have never signed a contract, and that's the time, if I'm ever forced to, I will retire, because I don't have to do dentistry. But I enjoy it so much, and that's why I think it's important that dentists realize they don't have to join managed care to survive, and they can have a very enjoyable practice and enjoy the relationship with the patients and not with the insurance companies.
And you two have been in Las Vegas. Is in many parts of the country a tough area to practice, where a lot of things have happened with the economy, with housing and so forth, but yet you two have seemed to be able to sustain and ride out that and stay in a health-centered model. What do you say to people who, because we were just talking before this about a doctor who's in a lot of insurance plans, and he's like, how can you practice like that today? What would you say to them to say, where do you need to begin, or how do you start, or what did you two, I know your stories a little bit and the technical paths and so forth, but what would you say?
I think, I think, especially in our economy, in our town, 20 years ago, dentists didn't even need consultants.
Yeah.
Consultants wasn't even, the number of dentists per person was, there was, a couple thousand people per dentist, if not 3,000 people per dentist. Was it? Yeah, 5,000 people per dentist for a long time. Yeah. And so there was a long time in the dental community in Las Vegas where you could, if you wanted to sign a plan to help some whatever, you could easily be a fee-for-service and insurance. You could have both. You could have dual practices almost if you chose to. Our practice has always been fee-for-service. We've decided to not accept any plans. But all that changed. All that significantly changed in about 10 years ago. And everybody decided that Las Vegas was going to be the place to be. We had roughly 300 dentists come to our city in 12 months, which immediately took that 5,000 to 1 down to a fairly, I don't know what the number is now, but it's a lot smaller. And so with all those dentists coming in, everybody decided, where's all my patients going? So the natural reaction is to join a plan, because that's where the patients are. And I think the thing that comes to my mind is when somebody joins a plan or when somebody decides to go there, that's their knee-jerk reaction to find patients. Because most of us don't know where to find patients. And so we sign up for a plan that they're going to send us patients. Well, the trouble is that as I see it, being someone who has never signed up for a plan, is that if you have 300 dentists all sign up for the same plans, you're all still searching for the same patients. So just because you signed up for the contract and took whatever reduced fee does not mean that you're going to get those patients walking in your door. So to answer the question of what does somebody do now, I don't know. Because really it comes down to the belief that you have and the type of practice you want to do and who you want to treat and how you want to treat them. I wish I had an answer of how to get off of insurance plans. I don't know. The only thing I know is how to stay off. And that is to sit down one-to-one and to get to know a patient and to earn the trust to have a second appointment. And that's all I can do.
Right. Well, let me kind of shift it a little bit, I guess, to Deb, because Deb has worked with you guys for a couple of years. I guess because most of the doctors that we worked with have worked with other consultants or management companies. Very few have not. And then we come in maybe the second or third consultant, kind of with your practice. And so I guess, what have you seen, Deb, when you started with them, and then what do you see now? I mean, what question comes to your mind when we're talking right now?
Well, I think that there were one of the things that I so admired about both doctors was making a conscious decision. That you had decided, I will make a conscious decision as to how I will practice, and under a great deal of duress at one period of time. It did not look like the easy way.
Right.
But for you, you decided it's the only way.
Right.
And when you made that decision, not only did you look at yourself and your relationships with your patients, you also were looking very clearly at, what do I have to do to have a sustainable business model? So I'm going to have to really look at how do we manage how do we be good stewards of the money that is produced by the practice so that we can retain it so the choice is still there. And then how do we look at every interaction, not just the interaction of myself or the doctor with the patient, but the interactions that are throughout the practice.
Right.
And how do we look at those interactions so that we still have that choice available?
Right. And I think in working with other consultants, I think the main difference between Deb and virtually, what do we have, 3 other ones? 2? 2 or 3? I think the main difference between Deb and every other consultant we had was the other consultants were concerned about production or dollars per hour. And there's a difference between dollars produced per hour and dollars collected per hour. They're both important statistics that we should always track, but more important is profit per hour. And Deb is the only one who got us to figure out that it's more important what our profit per hour is than what our production is per hour, than our production is per hour. And I think that switch for us has enabled us to actually figure out how to stay at a managed care, because we've been able to identify where our profit is. And once we're able to work from an area of financial freedom, but it wasn't always that way. I mean, I tell the story, we had 6 weeks in a row that we had to tell our staff every Monday morning what we had to collect to make payroll. And we did it for 5 weeks in a row, and we missed the 6th week, and we had to tap into a line of credit that we did not want to get into. But the fact that we did it for those 5 weeks, we never had to look to our line of credit again after that. And that was at the moment when we had that conversation with Deb, and we were at two choices. This was actually in a time in Las Vegas when there were bankruptcies. Dentists were going bankrupt. Our neighbor had just given the keys back to the bank. And we're on the call with Deb, and our question is, Deb, what do we do if there is nobody to come in the door? And Deb had two answers. You can stay the course and live to your values, which is relationships, and not allowing another person to tell me what my value is. Or you can sign up for plans. And that's when he said,
I will quit if I sign up my name on a plan.
and I said, if he quits, I quit. And I'm 39 years old. I was ready to walk away.
That's courageous.
And I think that's the important thing. I think if you have a vision and a core value, I think the problem is we get involved and we go to meetings and we find all these techie things that we can buy, all the patient education things we think are the magic bullets, that if we take and wow the patient with this or wow the patient with that, they're going to accept, and we don't have to interact. We allow all these things to do. But
Just push a button, they'll
to
tell
push a
the story.
button, they'll come in, or they'll accept, or they'll do anything. But it still comes down to us diagnosing and finding out and sharing with them, and have them co-diagnosing and sharing with them what their problem is, and interacting with them to try and solve and help them keep their teeth the rest of their life. And the problem is you have to spend time with the patient to do that.
You do. And that is the thing that keeps you very competitive, because others can buy the same piece of equipment.
Right.
Others can buy the same
Toys, Casey, whatever.
whatever it is, yes, whatever that tool or that instrument is. But the relationship can't be replicated because it's a different human being.
I think what's interesting, just a couple weeks ago, we have a new new sundries rep, and he's coming into our office and he's trying to get to know us. And his question was, he's like, our products are, they're not as competitively priced as other ones because we provide other value. And what we're really trying to do is we're trying to help your practice. So how can we really help your practice? And I think he was telling me is, what tools or what piece of equipment can we give you to actually help grow your practice? And I my only answer to him was, just make sure the stuff we order gets here the next day. And because there is nothing that you can do that's going to help me build my relationship with my patient. There's nothing a rep can give me that's going to help me sit down and actually understand and try to earn that patient's trust. Because ultimately, if we don't earn any trust, we don't. And if I don't trust them or they don't trust me, if I don't trust them, I shouldn't be doing any work on them either.
And I think the empowerment comes from Deb being there to help us and support us in our journey. And I think somebody to sound off has been instrumental and very important. We had our core values, but we needed them reinforced, that we are doing the right thing. And I think that triage and somebody to sound off of during those tough times was extremely important, because she could see that it's been done. And she had enough confidence in us that we could do it. And so we felt empowered to keep going as well.
Because there were some days that it was not easy. And there's still days that it's not easy. I'm not saying that it's...
And I think you need that outside person evaluating and helping you formulate, because it helps you in your decision-making process. Yes, I am doing the right thing.
I think one thing that's interesting is, like, as someone who has hired consultants before and has viewed them as, I'm going to hire them and they'll fix it. They'll just take care of it for me. And I think the difference is, in the first few months, you don't really feel like there's a lot of momentum yet. You feel like and it takes a while before you can actually, it's like that little that's the snowball that just barely starts going, and it's really, the snowball gets pretty big way down the road. It takes, I would say 18 months is minimum, but it can take 2 or 3 years before the snowball starts to get big enough to actually feel like it's actually, you're actually moving beyond where you first started. Because that, once you get the profit model going, once you understand what your profit is, and understand that you may have to work out of some debt to get there, because you really can't, that may take, I mean, the advantage for, I mean, the disadvantage, we had a lot of debt, but we were able to save and pay off our debt at the same time. So it wasn't an all or nothing. So we've been able to eliminate a lot of our debt and still build up reserves, which I think it's been good for us, because we haven't had to just do one or the other.
Yeah, I think Deb said a key word, the courage, because I think it takes a lot of courage to, well, number one, say you need help. Number two, admit that you don't have all the answers. Number three, to hire another consultant after 3 times. Number 4, to bring in other people from the outside that maybe you don't know, or that can really take you in a direction you want to go. And I think, Doug, you hit on something. We were talking on the trail about when you said profit. It's still, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Right. I mean, you see today, consultants or in publications, dental economics, 100 patients a month, the production models, that's the key, that's the answer still, push harder, see more patients. But the profitability part of it, the model, and when we were walking on the trail, you said that, this month your overhead will be maybe 50%. And I think when even people say that or hear that, it's like, how can that even be? And then the pressure to produce totally changes, or to have that production goal, and to see the number of patients totally, you don't have that pressure to keep marketing or get more bodies in. And
I mean, to put it into perspective, before we had even started working with you, our overhead was at 72% or so, and we had actually worked that down to about 65%, and we thought we were doing pretty good. We thought we'd moved at 7%. And neither one of us thought that, I mean, he's like, there's no way we're going to get, below 60. And Mark's like, I think you guys can get to 55%.
Deb's like, don't tell him that.
Right.
Not till I've seen it.
I know. Yeah. And I mean, the last couple of years we've been about 55, 60%, and year to date, we're at 54%, something like that. I'm guessing we'll probably fit somewhere there in the 54 to 60%, which I'm perfectly fine with. I mean, for 2 doctors, I think it's a pretty good number. We were working on, raising our solvency accounts.
And we've done that without us both being 100% utilized. Right. And I think that's the key, because as I'm getting a little older, I don't want to push and work as hard as I did 5 years ago, and I'm not. But I'm more productive when I am busy. But it gives me some time during the day to get some other things done. And
we've dramatically changed our schedule. We used to work 7 to 5, 4 days a week. We pretty much schedule 7 to 3, 4 days a week.
Except for an occasional patient that has some extensive work to do, and we may work before.
And we're working on adding more weeks of vacation every year, so we're slowly increasing that, which when you have profit, you can actually, and you don't have the overhead, you can actually do those things. And we still have room for us to do that.
So it's true then that with the courage to act, with the right systems, with the right core values, with the right monitors, with helping people to maybe see different possibilities, you can still have a great life in dentistry. You can still...
Oh, absolutely. And I think it empowers us to a kid. I think the scary thing is that somebody coming out of school today does not have that, because they're not taught that in school. And so they need to take and get involved with some good continuing education programs, but they need also programs on how to talk to patients.
I think that
So we're here the last couple of days.
I think we were talking about this earlier today. I mean, I think the advantage that dentistry has is that the barrier to entry into this career is really high.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 4 years of college, 4 years of dental school, and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yet, today, many people say, is it worth it? Let's look at other industries. I mean, I was talking to Mark, the videographer here. He has a nice business, nice career. He has an education. But guess what? There's 18-year-olds in high school that pick up a video camera and are actually marketing to do Mark's job. Take a wedding photographer. There's most of the wedding photographers don't go to school. Anyone with a camera can go take a picture. But yet, we think that we're all stuck in this horrible business, right? But there are wedding photographers that are doing really well, and there are wedding photographers that are not doing well. And the only denominator is the person doing the business. It really comes down to us. If you want it bad enough, it can be a great career. But there's a lot of things you have to go on inside you to actually get there. It comes down to values and. So I mean, I can say a couple of years ago that don't know if I would do it, because the barrier is so high for how hard it is. A lot of work. But if you can do the extra work, it's rewarding. I mean, it's not hard to compete against the people at the top.
Right. And you can actually, I was listening to Jack Welch talking about purpose, and he was saying that in medicine you're rather fortunate because you can really see that you have a strong moral compass, because what you do for people is very important. It may be harder for a salesman to get that same moral compass out of what they do, whereas you can really see that you've changed lives, and you've had people that have come back to you and have said, I'm different because I interacted with you. You brought so much value into my life. And that is a reward as well, as long as I'm also feeling like I'm getting value from that. Exactly.
I mean, I think once you get a core value of, it's not just fixing teeth, it's changing lives. And if that's one of your values, is to actually be part of that process of changing somebody's life, it kind of changes the feel of why you come to work. And not everybody wants to change lives, but if that's something that you'd like to do, it is a lot of fun.
Any closing words?
Thank you.
Just thank you.
Well,
For Mark for being persistent, and for Deb for putting up with us as far as through all of our calls and our running things by her and all of that, but also for her understanding and her just not really telling us what we have to do, but planting in the seeds of what we need to do. And we appreciated that. It's not always just saying, well, you guys got to do this and this and this. It's, well, this is what will happen if you decide to do this. And I think there's a difference, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, very much appreciate you.
yes.
Good friends.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time, and my only thought is that I hope we're all together in 2016. We can come back for a third time.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.